bigger rugby-wise. 2010, because of the World Cup, the rugby guys, the Bulls, could not use Loftus to host the Rugby World Cup, the Super Rugby final. So they took the semi-finals and the rugby final to Orlando Stadium, and the success of that should have informed people like the Lions, for example, that look, we've got the stadium, we've got this township on our doorstep. Why don't we use it? Why don't we embrace this place, this gold mine that's right on our doorstep? And we didn't. We saw pictures, not on this magnitude, but we saw people going to Soweto for the rugby match and coming back on Monday. Because they were welcomed into people's homes. The spirit of Ubuntu took over when the Bulls invaded Soweto for those 2 weekends. We're seeing something similar, maybe on a bigger stage at the moment, because this is a national team. Soweto has always been that dynamic township where it's warm, it's embracing of anything that is new and friendly. And this is bringing a great spotlight to their township. It's a great advert for their township.
All right, so I think the question as well is, you had a lot of people on social media over the past weekend who were saying that why are black people celebrating? This is not your sport. Rugby cements apartheid. So this is a huge disappointment for them, isn't it?
No. See, the people who say that are actually not well informed. Rugby is a black person sport as well. Rugby is not a white or a black person sport. Black people have played the game for decades. Black people have played the game for centuries. The Eastern Cape that we talk about has a history of black rugby. The Western Cape has a history of black rugby. The reason why those people might talk about rugby not being a black sport is because they have not been exposed to it. As I said to Peter earlier, that Siya Kolisi grew up in a rugby environment. His grandfather played rugby.
But could it be due to the slow pace of transformation in the sport?
You could say that.
A little representation of blacks in national teams and other teams?
Maybe. Maybe you could say maybe black players have not been given the prominence and opportunities at the highest level. But there is a very rich history of black players playing both rugby and cricket for centuries. They especially in, I'd say, the Cape Province, which is both the Eastern and Western Cape, even KZN, they've played it for a long time. But maybe because history was not well documented back then, it's hard to get the kind of history that one needs to get. But there is really a rich history of rugby being played in those areas by black people. And like I said, if you go into those areas, when you watch rugby, when you listen to black people talk about rugby in those areas, it's the passion that comes through. And I'm not talking about old people; it's youngsters. The passion that comes through is it's something that has come through the generations, because it's something they've lived. It's more than just a game that they've played. It's something they've lived. Rugby, when you go to the Eastern Cape, for example, and you look at the school derbies between your Dale Selborns, when you go to the locations and you watch Swallows, the African Bombers, the passion with which the game is played, and it's proper rivalries. It's almost as deep as the soccer in places like Gauteng. It really has a long, deep history, but unfortunately, it has not been as documented and has not been given the prominence it deserves.
All right, so we've seen Siya Kolisi being the first black captain for the World Cup. So maybe people would want to see the next coach being black, and we've already had the media throwing around the name of Jacques Nienaber as the possible successor of
Jacques Nienaber. Jacques Nienaber has been thrown around because if you see the challenge, if you bring in someone into this system, they need to work under a system that's already there, a successful system. An independent might come in and try to change things, and it has not always worked. It's a rather unfortunate scenario that we've had in South Africa, whereby for some reason our World Cup winning coaches have not carried on after the World Cup. Kitch Christie, for health reason, did not carry on after the 95 World Cup victory. Jake White, for I think more probably political reasons, did not carry on after the 2007 World Cup victory. Rassie has said he wants to step down and focus on his primary job, which is director of rugby. But also, if Rassie steps down, you'd want someone who understands the system. You'd want that continuity.
And when you look at the professional relationship between him, Jacques, and Rassie, they come a long way.
They do. They've been friends since the army days. It's a solid relationship. It's been a successful relationship. They were successful at the Cheetahs, at the Stormers, at Munster, and now at the Springboks. It's a proven relationship over a long period of time. And Jacques, the interesting thing about Jacques is he's never really been head coach of any team because he's always followed Rassie wherever he's gone. So it would be interesting that your first job is being in charge of the world champions. But it would be interesting. In terms of a black coach, one wonders who would take over. There aren't any obvious black names that would just jump into this job purely because there aren't many black coaches who have been given opportunities at the highest level to be in charge of teams.
What went wrong for Peter de Villiers?
Peter de Villiers probably it was more that his employers were looking to move on. He did not do a bad job at all. He was actually very successful. Peter de Villiers beat the British Lions. He was very successful against the All Blacks, which is the yardstick for South African coaches, and that is our main rival. So I think his employers were just looking for a new direction. Purely from a rugby perspective and results point of view, he did not do badly as a Springbok coach. But I think his employers were looking for a new direction, and they gave it to someone who had proven himself to be a winner. Heineke May had won a couple of Super Rugby trophies, and he had coached a lot of the players that Peter had been successful with. So it was. They thought they were doing the right thing, which unfortunately in the end did not really translate to the results that they were hoping for.
Okay, so we're still having these images of this bus carrying the world champions, and they're edging ever closer towards Orlando, where today the people of Soweto who've been littering the streets along the way have been cheering them, but rugby is going to be celebrated in Orlando Stadium today. The Springboks World Cup champions in that bus, and taking in these moments. When they left Australia, I think Japan, they'd been seeing the activity on social media, but it's another thing to arrive at the airport.
To that hero's welcome.
I think it's I was taking bets downstairs saying it's going to get crazier when you get to PE, where the captain is from and a couple of these players are from. When you get to Cape Town, where some of these players are also from, and also those are rugby strongholds, where you get people who really understand the game, who play the game. It means a lot more to them that they're going to have that, and also the political background with regards to those areas, because they're also there's a big All Black. It's funny actually, when All Black supporters, when South Africa progressed to the finals, a lot of All Black supporters were saying, look, for the sake of Sia and for the sake of black people, we will support the Springboks for now. So there was that moment, that truce. But I think a lot of people, the whole country will embrace this. It's hard to look away from such visuals. It's hard to not support a team that has done so much good in terms of unifying the country and lifting the spirits of the nation.
Okay, so we take you back now to Vilakazi Street in Soweto. Our reporter Mnegelo Madala is standing by. The bus is still on its way there. It is around Soweto as it is now, so it's still making its way to Vilakazi Street. Mnegelo, good afternoon to you. What's the mood and the feeling like?
The sound tells it all, doesn't it?
Gives it away. All right, so I suppose you need not ask Peter about the mood and the excitement, the sound, net sound gives it away. Yeah, of course, as you can see, fans are waiting for the arrival of the bus carrying bunch of winners, isn't it?
Absolutely. Now, Thando, you're a sports fundi. You've watched all of this. And I'm not sure anybody's asked you how you feel watching this unfold.
Yeah, no, it has actually. No, it's moving. It's this is the sort of stuff I actually never thought I'd see. To be honest, I never imagined we'd have a black player leading the Springboks. I knew one day we'd win the World Cup purely because we've got the talent, but I just never believed that with all the politics in South African rugby, I'd see this. It's heartwarming to see it. It's a real pleasure. It's as a broadcaster, yes, it's lovely to see. Yeah. But personally speaking, wow, it would be nice to be in Soweto.
It would be good. These are fantastic images. This bus done up in the green and gold of the Springboks, and we've got these motorbikes with cameras capturing the moments as well. All sorts of shots today, and I can only imagine social media, everybody's got that moment when they saw the Springboks, saw the bus, and they waved to them. And Sia and his speeches throughout, there's just, as you say, there's just some people who are able to get a sense of what I need to say today and now. And he seems to come up with the right words and the right spirit every time he speaks.
You know, Peter, as a journalist, you're always looking for real stories. You're always looking for the human factor, the stories you can you can just let themselves play them out. This team is full of stories which you don't need to do much. You just let the person tell their story. These guys have found their identity like that. They've been able to tell their stories. They've been able to find their identity. That is what is great about this team. That is what is great about Sia's stories. I said earlier that the one thing Sia has done well is the fact that he has told his story. He has gladly told people his story of poverty. He has told people his struggle. He has told people that he does not come from the riches that he now enjoys. He has told people about all the struggles that he had.
Has that changed the story? I recognize this bridge. We're literally a hopscotch away from Orlando Stadium now. Has this story changed the way both whites and blacks view rugby in South Africa?
I think firstly, on a personal level, the narrative is changing. There's a bit of tolerance now. There's that moment of I want to know you a bit better. That is all you want. I think that is the little change that we talking about. I don't know about the entire holistic change that we all hope for, because we get caught up in the euphoria and we believe in this great moment that is going to change our entire society. Maybe we're not there yet, but look, any step forward is a positive. And when we see people in Soweto, white people, having a good time and enjoying being a South African in a different part of the country, that it doesn't get better than that.
Well, this is Orlando Stadium, isn't it? This is them getting into the precinct, of Orlando Stadium now. So these fans have, a lot of them have been waiting for hours now.
It's been a long day.
Just to capture this moment. I mean, it's brief, but the atmosphere and the excitement leading up to it.
I'm actually checking out the hashtag on Twitter now, hashtag Springbok Champions. A lot of people are posting their pictures. Some people even say that I had to leave work to come and experience this feel. So, as we said, it speaks to the unity that we're talking about here in South Africa, Rainbow Nation, as we said earlier.
This is exciting, isn't it? So this, as I said, probably live streamed to around the globe. I have family and friends in Zimbabwe that were wearing Springbok shirts on Saturday, screaming for South Africa to win. Because I think sometimes we forget that this is an African victory more than just South Africa.
It's always nice to hear positive stories about the continent, a continent which has suffered greatly, a continent which has not had that many positive stories to tell in the past. But now, whenever we find a moment to do that, whenever we find a moment to bring a positive sunlight on and portray our continent in a positive light, we need to do that and to see this. And I mean, like, I'm sure inside the stadium we'll see Orlando Stadium in all its great glory.
Goodness. Well, they've arrived. They've arrived. Yeah. There they are. Again, we're not sure who's catching these images for the first time, but the Springboks have arrived at Orlando Stadium. They're now going to be getting off the bus and starting to make their way into the stadium, where I have no doubt they're going to receive a massive cheer. And again, more of the appreciation that they've been feeling throughout their journey. And I would say, throughout this World Cup tournament and leading up to it, there were some people who believed there was an outside chance, but more and more as we gathered pace. And then we lost to New Zealand, and I look back and I think maybe that was a blessing, because you don't want to beat someone who's a favourite and then you become cocky.
No, but even in that loss against New Zealand, it's not like New Zealand blew us away.
Yeah,
we actually had chances to win that match, and so all